The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Ascending. This isn't just a podcast. This is a call to action for all entrepreneurs who are tired of seeing their businesses and communities suffer while big business continues to grow by the billions. We challenge you to apply the content of our time together to create businesses that your clients can't resist, your employees love to work for, and your communities can depend on. Now is the time for Entrepreneurs Ascending. Hello, welcome to Entrepreneurs Ascending. Thank you so much for joining us again. And again, this is not just a podcast. This really is a call to action. This is about taking the information that we discuss here today and going out there, doing it, living it, applying it to your business. Because I don't know about you, but I'm tired of seeing small businesses struggle while big business continues to grow and thrive and hitting all-time highs. Not that big business is necessarily bad, but I want you, the small business owner, to enjoy your own wealth, enjoy your own freedom, enjoy your own life, and be able to have that positive impact on your local communities that big business just can't have, just won't have. It's just not the nature of it. So thank you so much for joining us here today. And so today we're going to be talking about two really important topics that are just growing in popularity, or growing in really the importance to society. And I've got our guest here with us, Christopher Carrillo. Thank you, Christopher, for joining us today. Hello, Christopher. Christopher is a financial advisor and a friend, and he's really well versed on all these topics regarding the Cashflow Quadrant. Actually, we were talking about a lot about it the other day, and I'm like, you got to come on to the show and dig into that. So, Christopher, can you tell everybody a little bit more about your background and why this whole subject is important to you?
Sure, be more than happy to. Very happy to be here with all of you this morning. Certainly hope everyone is doing well. Got started working in the industry about 10 years ago. And one of the things I learned early on is that I really have a passion for working with individuals who truly have the entrepreneurial spirit. In my experience, talking with entrepreneurs is energizing because from what I've observed over the years, they are some of the most driven and some of the most inspirational people out there. And so consequently, whenever I have a chance to talk to entrepreneurs, I find that I always really feed off of those interactions. It's just phenomenal. And I always learn something. They're a smart group of people. And so when you're talking to business owners, you always learn something. But more recently, one of the things that I noticed was a report that was given to me by the head of my company's marketing department. I had a conversation with her a couple weeks ago about it. We are able to track the number of views that we have on various pages of our company website. And the one page that had the highest number of views over the past month was our webpage that is specifically dedicated to the Cashflow Quadrant concept. And of course, this is a concept that was introduced by Robert Kiyosaki in his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We featured that information on the company website purely for educational purposes. It's not something that allows us to make any money. We don't sell any products or services with that information. We put it up on the website just so that it could help people out if they decided that they wanted to be in business for themselves. So she came to me with this report, and it said this particular webpage is by far the most popular on the website. So I thought to myself, okay, we need to really tap into that. We need to figure out how we can now take this information and really bring it to the forefront of the conversation that so many people are having in our society today. So that's what prompted me to come on your show. Honored to be here. When it comes to the cash flow quadrant concept, it's such a powerful thing. It's a powerful tool I tell all my clients and prospective new clients on a daily basis that the nature of your income can really have a profound impact on your ability to accumulate wealth. And most of the people that I talk to on a daily basis are currently at a point in their lives where they're reassessing a lot of stuff. And it makes perfect sense why that's happening. It's happening now more than ever before because of the current state of our economy, everything that's going on in our society, especially with the pandemic. So a lot of people are reassessing their job situation and, more importantly, their career. And at the end of the day, the cash flow quadrant concept is an excellent place to start because it really helps you kind of formulate that vision for your future from an income perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, with it's one of the things that we really help business owners to understand too is that, there's even a difference between solopreneur and entrepreneur. And, that solopreneur is somebody who's, self-employed, they work for themselves. Sometimes they might even have kind of like a helper person. I'll even kind of throw that in the category, but they're still trading time for money, right?
Right. That's right. Well,
Yeah.
and that's really what the ESBI is all about. I call the cash flow quadrant the ESBI because I think to me that's probably a great way to kind of approach it. Would you like to break it down, or do you want me to break it down for the viewers?
Break it down. Yeah, man, that would be great. I'd love for you to break it down. You're the guest today, so I appreciate you having on here. So yeah, and I don't know, Jason. I think Jason's getting that up. Jason's our engineer. He's the man behind the scenes making the magic happen. So he's going to be bringing that up here shortly. But Christopher, if you'd like to go ahead and start kind of just breaking that down. So what is what are the cash flow quadrants just overall?
Sure. Let's get right into it then. So the ESBI, the E is going to be employee. So if you are an employee, you're essentially in a situation where you're trading your time for money. And the primary benefit of being an employee is the fact that your income is predictable. And of course, anytime we're going through a difficult time with the economy or in our society at large, especially with something like the pandemic, having predictable income can be one of the things that helps you sleep well at night. So I always tell people, if you're an employee, there's nothing wrong with that. If being an employee is what is most appropriate for you, then by all means, run with that. Nothing wrong with that. The downside to the E on the cash flow quadrant is the fact that you are essentially limited by time because you can only work so many hours in a day. And at the end of the day, that means that from an income perspective, the sky is not the limit. But you do have predictable income. So that's the positive. The S stands for self-employed. And if you are a self-employed individual, you essentially own a job. It's a situation where you're still trading time for money because there are only so many hours in a given day that you can devote to revenue generating activities. The exciting thing about the S is the fact that you now have the ability to generate some residual income, some passive income, but you're still limited by time because it's essentially a situation where you are trading your time for money. You're just now doing it as a business, someone who's in business for themselves. Then, of course, you go to the B, and that's the business owner. And the business owner, they've taken things to a whole nother level because essentially what they've done is they've somehow managed to create a system within their industry, within their company, that allows them to make money even when they personally are not on the job. And obviously what's happening there is you are now leveraging other people, other resources in order to make your business run effectively. And when you are able to truly say that you are a business owner, it's a very exciting transition in anyone's career because really what's happening is you are now attaining time freedom, you are attaining financial independence, and the sky is really the limit once you make it to that point. The most common question that I get from the individuals that I work with is how do you make that transition from an S to a B? If someone's in business for themselves, that's typically the primary question that they have They want to make that transition. Making that transition is not easy. It definitely can take some time. It's a situation where it's all about creating that system, and that's going to look different for every company, and it's going to look different based on your industry, and it's going to look different based on the nature of your business. But at the end of the day, creating that system is what really allows one to make the transition from a self-employed individual to a true business owner. And then, of course, there's the I, and the I is the investor. As a financial advisor, I work with investors all day long. That's a situation where your money is now working for you. And that is when you can really start to see some exciting things happen from a time freedom perspective. So at the end of the day, that's the ESBI. And right now, it is becoming so incredibly relevant in our society, just because so many people right now are reassessing life.
Yeah.
So it's really a great concept for people to be aware of, especially if they are contemplating making any changes.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And in part two, we're going to be discussing the Great Resignation and some of the impacts that that's having. So stick around for that as well, if you're listening right now. And but with the different levels, like we were saying, that solopreneur to entrepreneur. Yeah, that entrepreneur is the systems, and where you can actually have, instead of active trading time for money, you can have that passive income where you can trade other people's time and other people's money for your own money, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
There's that famous saying, you can spend your time building someone else's dream, or you can spend your time building your own.
Right.
And
right.
at the end of the day, whatever you want to do, just find a way to do it. I like I always tell people, being a business owner, it's risky. I mean, if you look at the statistics, you probably know better than me, Matt, the statistics of businesses that don't make it past their first year. So starting a business is definitely a challenge, but once you find a way to make it profitable, it's very exciting. Very exciting. I'd say it's well worth the effort.
Yeah. Well, and there are, like you said, there are people who employee just makes sense for, and that's great, because you can't have you can't have a business if you don't have great people working in the business who are on mission with you. Now, that doesn't, I mean, that might just be kind of their role that they just enjoy. They love the security. Maybe they've got other, priorities that they want to be able to focus on, and just being able to have that. So I definitely don't want to necessarily say that there's something wrong with employee. Plus, they can still, if they invest their money correctly, potentially have a great job for a number of years and be able to retire at a young age, and still be able to move over into that investor side, right? I mean, is that a possibility?
Definitely.
Okay.
Most definitely. Yeah. The that saying that I mentioned, it's kind of geared towards those who truly have the entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
That I should qualify my statement by saying, if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, run with that, because it's great. Like you said, nothing wrong with being an employee, and of course you're absolutely right. Any organization is going to be successful if they have quality individuals throughout the organization, from the top down. So it's a situation where you need those quality people, definitely.
Absolutely. And so systems and trading other people's time and other people's money, I want to hit upon that too, because a lot of times people look at that kind of funny, like, what do you mean trading other people's time? And let me adjust my chair. I feel like I'm a little low today. All right. So yeah, trading other people's time and money just means that you're delegating things out, and I think that can be a very empowering thing if done right, if done well. You can have great employees and still empower them to do great work, and trust them to do great work, to be able to take that step back and let them run the systems that you've developed, or maybe they've even developed and improved upon. So I think that there's also people who kind of think that, like, that's above something, another state of being, being an employee or something like that. But again, I don't think that there's any reason to look at any of these necessarily as it's really kind of what you prioritize in life. But I know for my clients, they want a lot more of that freedom. So being over in that in the B and the I quadrants, those are vital for them. So what does it take to move from like the B to the I? So they're a business owner. They've got some systems in place. To me, that's really kind of like an entrepreneur. They start getting the systems in place, and the businesses are kind of running without them. So how do they get to that next stage of investor? What's that big jump there for them in mindset?
Sure, great question. So, well, the investor bit, it's really relevant for everybody.
Hmm.
If you think about it, if you have an employee who is investing in a 401k at work, they're an investor. So they're part of that. If you're
Okay.
fortunate enough to work for a company who has a pension plan,
Hmm.
which are going away, they've been going away for a long time. But if you have a pension plan, you are still experiencing the investments that are taking place within that pension plan. So if you have an IRA, a 401k, maybe you have a Roth, whatever the case may be, you're able to invest. Uh, when it comes to the business owners, a lot of times once a business achieves profitability, um, there are a number of different things that the business owner can do with those profits. Obviously, you can reinvest them in the business in order to expand it. You can start a new business if you're a multipreneur. Maybe you want to have exposure to multiple different industries. And of course, if you decide that you want to go ahead and get some asset class diversification, the financial markets are an excellent way to do that because as we transition from year to year, uh, we don't know where we're going to end up on December 31st, meaning we don't know what asset class is going to yield the highest return. The one thing we do know is it's typically going to fluctuate from year to year. One year maybe stocks are the highest. Another year maybe you have real estate really doing well. So it just kind of depends on what asset class um, is going to be the highest yielding asset class for any given year. We don't know what that's going to be. So
Right.
having exposure to multiple asset classes is always a good idea from an asset class diversification perspective because it can really help you participate in any big upswings that we experience in various parts of the economy. But at the end of the day, uh, to be an investor, most people are. I think anyone who is involved in an employee sponsored plan through their employer is experiencing that, which is really great because right now with inflation doing what it's been doing, a lot of people are really starting to become very concerned about, you know, whether or not that's going to, erode their retirement savings. Are
Hmm.
they going to be able to retire when they want to? Business owners, especially, are very concerned about that because they know that they need to retain talent. And of course,
Hmm.
we need to make sure that we are making our companies attractive for people who we currently have employed. And of course, if we need to attract new employees, then of course we also want to make sure that they have an incentive to come to our company as opposed to another company in the industry. So a lot of things are shifting right now, and there's a lot of dynamics at play from a labor perspective. Right now, I think most business owners would say that it's difficult to find enough help. And if you can, then the question inevitably becomes, are you able to attract qualified employees to the company? So if you're able to offer an attractive 401k plan, for example, that can be a good way to retain talent and attract new talent. Company benefits are really being scrutinized right now because employees
Yeah.
know that they're kind of the ones who have the leverage. You want me to
Hmm.
come work for your company? Tell me why. I talked to a friend of mine last week. He's a owner of a trucking company out there in Colorado. He just lost a couple drivers to a neighboring firm in the same industry who was offering their drivers 10 cents an hour more. And I'm thinking
Wow.
to myself, 10 cents an hour, they're jumping ship for 10 cents an hour, but that's
Wow.
how tight the labor market is right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a wow situation. I said the same thing. I couldn't believe it. So it's a situation where uh, you know creating an incentive to attract quality employees is becoming more and more important for business owners. And if you think about it from that perspective, offering a quality retirement plan can be a great little perk, along with all of the other benefits that the employees might want in order to sign on to any company.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I don't know if
actually.
that answers the question. I hope that.
No, no, that's a great point. So you don't necessarily have to be like a business or an entrepreneur to be able to enter into the I category. And I think that you answered that well. That as soon as you start investing and figuring out ways to use stocks or any of that stuff, that you start getting into the or 401ks, you said, or pension plans. I mean, that all kind of starts getting you into that investor state of mind, like thinking, okay, if I put money into a place, what kind of ROI is it going to give me? But it's funny because even with business owners, trying to get them to think in terms of that ROI, even like in terms of marketing, when you're able to put money in and you think of it as an investment into marketing. I know that's not quite four quadrants, but if you're able to invest in marketing, or invest in a new employee, or invest in some new equipment, it's not just a cost. It's about getting that ROI back. So it's kind of like a little mindset shift that I think is really important as a business owner, as you're trying to figure out how to grow the cost versus investment, because you need to be thinking about how do I make money off of my money, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. In fact, one of the things that we've been doing over the past several years, more and more, is utilizing S blocks. Are you familiar with the concept of an S block?
Tell me more about that. Tell the audience what the S block is.
It's kind of incredible. So I think most people in our society are familiar with a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. Pretty simple. What's going on there? It's a situation where you're taking the equity in your home and you're using that equity to generate a line of credit that you can dip into whenever you need liquidity. With the S blocks, what we're doing is we are taking the home out of the equation and we are replacing the home with an investment portfolio. And the S block stands for securities backed line of credit, because it's a line of credit that is backed by securities, which are held within your investment portfolio. So one of the things that business owners really love about this particular solution is the fact that if they are going through a difficult or challenging time, like we have been with the pandemic and the economy being partially shut down, they need liquidity. They need money to keep doors open and the lights on. They need money to keep the operation, a going concern. And one of the things that they are doing is they're dipping into the line of credit that we've set up for them through the S block to help get them through a rough patch. And the most beautiful part about this particular solution is the fact that if you need to raise cash, you don't have to sell any of the investments within your investment portfolio to do it. We are able to preserve your investment strategies. We're able to preserve your portfolio because we've created a second bucket of money, which is your line of credit, and you can dip into that whenever you need to in order to cover costs. It could be anything. It could be payroll. It could be inventory. It could be utility bills, rent, whatever you have going on with the business. The line of credit can really serve as an excellent source of cash. And at the end of the day, a lot of these business owners that we're working with absolutely love them because they put these lines of credit in place when times were really good. And now that times are a little bit more challenging, they're able to use it and they don't have to worry about underwriting. They don't have to worry about any of that because it's been done on the front end. So they're good to go. But it's just a unique solution that we offer to our qualified and eligible investment clients. And many of our business owners take advantage of the solution because they can use the funds not just personally, but also for the business.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like a powerful way to be able to, I guess, use other people's money. And that's another thing too, that sometimes like not all credit is bad if you're using it to make money, if you're using it to get some sort of return back. And, if you're just using it for something that's not necessarily, an asset, or if you're not using it, an asset that's going to grow in value, or if you're not using it to turn around and leverage, using the principle of leverage to increase, the return that you get back on that, then yeah, sometimes using credit is not great. But there are great applications that a lot of your business owners, it sounds like, are using it for. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about this Great Resignation thing that's going on right now, and how it's affecting the world and well, at least America, and maybe some things that we can do about it, maybe on both sides of that table. So we're going to go ahead and take that quick break. Jason, run the commercial. Have you been suffering from chronic pain, disease, or sleep disorders? Did you know that 75 to 90% of disease is caused by inflammation in the body? The sad truth is, most doctors just treat symptoms rather than finding and fixing root causes of inflammation. If you want to fix your health problems, then finding and fixing the cause of the inflammation is a must. It's time to demand this for your health care and start living life to its fullest again. Book a discovery appointment with the Functional Health Team founder, Dr. Flora, to get your answers ASAP at www.functionalhealthteam.com. Thank you. All right. So we're back. And again, this is the Entrepreneurs Ascending Show. And this isn't just a podcast. This is a call to action. This is about taking what we talk about and put it into action for yourself today, as soon as you're done with this. Maybe even while you're sitting here listening to this, you're typing an email for somebody to take some action on. Don't just be a passive listener, be an active listener. All right. So we just talked about the four quadrants, and so the four cash flow quadrants, and how important they are basically for getting that point of freedom in your life. And because you have that money that's making money, you have you're an investor or you're a business owner, and you're able to use other people's time, other people's money to grow your wealth and to be able to live comfortably. But this half of the show, we're going to dig into the Great Resignation. And it's funny because I actually didn't hear that term until just a couple of weeks ago, where it just started popping up, and now it's just like all over the place. But this is something that I've been encouraging people to really think about and beforehand to prepare for, because there was definitely a trend of labor leaving, and we saw in 2020 a lot of people who left certain jobs never came back. But Christopher, what is your take on the Great Resignation? How would you explain what's happening?
Sure. So it's really a function of the pandemic. It's the result of people taking a step back and really reassessing life. It goes far beyond just deciding that I don't like the company I'm working for, or I don't like my boss, or I don't like the industry that I'm in. It's far more than that. The pandemic created a situation where people had time freedom, and it was the sort of time freedom that we had never seen in our society. In the early days of the pandemic, when we really had the lockdowns going on all across the nation, that was the first time that our entire society was told you have to stay at home. And when people had that ability to stay at home, it gave them the ability to really start doing some self-reflection. And a lot of people started asking some pretty big life questions. They started asking, am I truly happy with what I'm doing for a living? Am I truly happy with my quality of life? And as a result of the time freedom that we will probably never be able to experience again in our lifetimes as a society, people really started to come up with some conclusions that, okay, life is short. I want to enjoy it. I need to make changes in order to make sure that my quality of life is higher when all of this craziness is finally behind us. And so right now, we are at that stage in the game where people are now starting to act on the decisions that they made. They are starting to really embrace the idea of starting their own business. I think one of the reasons right now that so many employers are having a hard time finding quality people is because so many people have decided, I'm done with that. I'm through. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give it a try. As a business owner, maybe it will work, maybe it won't. But a lot of people right now, they're in the mood to take some risk because they understand, hey, why not? What have I got to lose? So I think that's really what was going on beneath the surface. And right now, when you look at the employment numbers, the unemployment rate is pretty low. And at the end of the day, that's really because a lot of people who want jobs already have them, and those who don't are trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to do moving forward in order to get this new business I want to start off the ground? And that takes time. It takes planning. And my focus right now is trying to identify those people and figure out how we can help them, because starting a business, as you know, my friend, it's not easy. As a business coach, you know better than most just how much goes into making any new enterprise a successful venture. And at the end of the day, you are needed now more than ever, which is why it gives me tremendous peace of mind knowing that you're just a phone call away.
Well, thank you, Christopher. I'll slip you the 20 here for a little plug. Appreciate that.
It's an incredible time to be in your industry, because I'm thinking to myself, when I interact with my clients as a financial advisor, there are three different types of interactions that I have with my clients. The first type of interaction is what we call core services. And core services is just a term that we use to describe what we do. In my industry, using core services to differentiate yourself is virtually impossible, because we all have the ability to offer the same stuff. With that being said, I have found some ways to differentiate myself from a core services perspective, but really, that's not really what allows me to truly differentiate myself in the marketplace. Long story short, core services is a term that we use to describe what we do. And that's the first type of interaction I have with my clients. Second type of interaction is consulting. We do a lot of that with our business owner clients. And then the third type of interaction is advanced coaching. And when we interject some advanced coaching into our interactions with our clients, that's really us using psychology to take things to a whole nother level. And I look at what you're doing as a business coach, and from a business perspective, you are needed now more than I can possibly state. I don't know how to say it any other way. The point I'm trying to make is the advanced coaching that I do with my clients, it has limits because of my expertise. My expertise is in helping people formulate a financial plan and enhancing their quality of life by utilizing some pretty exciting strategies from a psychology perspective. But starting a business, getting a business off the ground, that's something that I know a little bit about, but it's kind of like an iceberg. You see a little bit of it, but then beneath the surface, there's a lot more to it. And that's why I'm so thankful that we have people like you. So getting back to the Great Resignation, right now, a lot of people are resigning from their companies, and it's a situation where the economists that I talk to, they're trying to figure out where these people are going. We know where they're not working, but does that mean that they're just staying at home, or does that mean that they're doing something else? I happen to believe that they are currently in that stage where they're trying to start a business, and maybe they're just getting things started. Maybe they just founded the company. Maybe they're trying to get all of the infrastructure in place that they need in order to establish a successful business. But I think a lot of people are working through that, and they're realizing that there are limitations to what they know, and they don't know what they don't know. So I think that's what's really going on right now. And of course, that can't go on too long, because at the end of the day, we all have to eat. And if your business is not profitable, you're going to have some issues. from an income perspective. That's where the ESBI comes in. But I'm thinking to myself, right now, with the Great Resignation, a lot of people really need some guidance because, like I said earlier, the statistics tell us the number of businesses that actually succeed is pretty small. And if there's anything we can do to help people overcome that statistic, I think that's really going to be a great benefit, not just for the individuals that we work with, but also for the society at large.
Yeah. And there's two sides of this coin. There's the people who need help on the side of like, okay, I'm done. I'm starting a new business. And then there's also the other side where I think leaders really need to understand what's important and what people are asking for from them to join their company. And I was doing a little bit of research, recently on the Great Resignation, and Forbes had an article, and they did apparently there was some research done by a company called Limeade that specializes in making great workplaces. And some of the highlights were that 40% of employees cited burnout as a top reason for leaving. And employees were so dissatisfied with their situation that more than one quarter, 28% of all respondents left their jobs without another job lined up. And, they were actually primarily attracted to their current job based on the ability to work remotely and other forms of flexibility. And some of that stuff's dried up and changing. An additional 24% reported not being restricted to complete job responsibilities during set work hours as a top attraction. Job changers are generally happy they have made the switch to the new role, and on average, respondents reported a 22% boost in feeling cared for as an individual by their new employer, and 22% improvement in comfort regarding disclosing a mental health condition compared with how they felt with their previous employer.
Wow.
Yeah. So top 5 reasons why employees quit: burnout, company going through organizational changes, which that's pretty general. I mean, that could include anything from they got cut to they just didn't like the changes. That's 34%. Burnout was 40%. 34% was a company going through organizational changes. Lack of flexibility, I guess 20%. I guess it's not an exclusive thing. Instances of discrimination, 20%. That's a fifth of the people. 20% were feeling discriminated against.
Right.
And the contributions and ideas not being valued at 20%. Insufficient benefits, just like you said, at 19%. So almost a fifth as well. And well-being not being supported by the company at 16%. So that's I think that's pretty telling. So on one hand, I want to help, like as you're saying, people who are starting off a new business to figure out what do they need to do to launch, and how are they going to be successful, and hopefully they continue to listen in, because it's going to start as a solopreneur. A lot of people actually kind of starting down this road as like a 1099 contractor, aren't they? They're just trying to, like that gig economy. They're just trying to piece together some things and use those skills. But then there's the other side too of leaders learning empathy, even from what it says there to understand what their employees need. So
right. And that really is where I think the field of psychology comes into play.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't tell you how much I want to promote that concept, because I will tell you, over the past 3 years, I've actually been embarking on what I call a journey of self-education. And my journey of self-education has specifically pertained to the field of psychology. Over the past 3 years, I've decided that I'm going to make myself kind of like a sponge. And I'm just going to read as much as I possibly can about psychology, specifically behavioral psychology. And over the past 3 years, I can't tell you how much that knowledge has completely transformed me, both personally and professionally. And I think right now, a lot of people who are business owners, they need to start learning more about that, because if you can understand the mind, if you can understand how people think, how people make decisions, what people want, what people need, and really what people are searching for at this stage in the game,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to put yourself in a position to be much more successful. You're going to have an easier time retaining talent. You're going to have an easier time attracting talent, and you're going to have an easier time making that transition from a self-employed individual to a true business owner.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah. The psychology aspect of it. I love the book by John Maxwell, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect,
Mm-hmm.
because it's critical. And to me, that connection is about that empathy, about just meeting people where they're at, finding that common ground, that understanding. But that's critical for sales and marketing, for understanding what your patrons or your clients, your customers might want, what's going on in their heads and their hearts. But that's also critical for leadership and employee development and helping empower employees and figuring out what it is that what their goals are, what they want out of life. Have you heard a lot of people talking about like work ethic? Like, oh, the younger generations don't have any work ethic.
Yeah, we hear that all the time about the millennials. That's true.
Yeah, but I think you said something really, really important there about how people kind of reflected on life during the pandemic. They were sitting at home, and I don't know, just as you were talking about that, something came to mind, like life ethic. Like,
Mm-hmm.
work ethic is important. I believe that you have a business or you work to make a better life, but it seems like a lot of people think that the highest value is to live to work. I don't know. Like, what
Well,
do you think about that?
what I do know from my work as a financial advisor is, because
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand, I work with people through all stages of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I work with families through multiple generations. And that's seeing families through multiple generations has allowed me to make some observations. One of the things I've learned is that you have to have a reason to wake up in the morning. If you don't, you're going to start going downhill mentally, emotionally, physically. And so you have to have a purpose. And I think right now, a lot of people are taking a step back and they're saying, okay, what is my purpose?
Mm-hmm.
What do I really want to contribute to the world? I remember when I graduated from college, it was a tough job market, especially in my industry because of the financial crisis. And it was a situation where I was frustrated because there were jobs that I could have taken that I chose not to take because I didn't feel like I was contributing anything of value to society. Obviously, I wanted to work within my industry and I had the ability to do that, but I know so many other people didn't. And I know that a lot of people in the wake of the financial crisis had to take jobs that had nothing to do with their chosen field of study. And at the end of the day, people, they want to contribute something to the world that they regard as important. And they also need to have a purpose, because without a purpose, it just doesn't work. So I think really what's happening right now is a lot of people are reassessing, okay, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What do I want to contribute to the world? What is my contribution going to look like?
Yeah.
So
And I'm seeing that a lot too. People wanting to understand, what is their mission? What is their vision for the future? Even there's a lot of folks, they struggle with that vision for the future. I've in a lot of talks with some of the younger generation. So much has been pounded in their head, even about like global warming and all this stuff that could possibly kill them. I'm not saying that climate change. I'm not making I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is like the effect that that talking to these kids and kind of beating it into their head that like the world is gonna collapse on them, and saying the only way to fix it is you. Well, on one hand, I think it has created some folks who are really out there and working hard to try to fix some of these problems that are out there. On the other hand, I know a lot of people where it's kind of created this depression and anxiety and this sense that like, well, what's the point? We're all going to die anyway. Like, so there's, yeah.
The apocalyptic syndrome. Yeah.
Right. The
Yeah.
apocalyptic syndrome. I
Yeah.
talked to quite a few people who suffer from that, from the younger generations. So, um, it's funny that people want to sit there and complain about work ethic. On the other hand, I'm like, what about life ethic? What about some balance there? And as business owner, if you think that working 80 hours a week is the epitome of life, that's your point of view, and that's great if that's what you want to do. But there are some other ways to do it. If there's some other things that you'd want to do in life and have more freedom, we can get you there. If you just want to work 80 hours a week until you're dead, okay. But that's on you, that your employees don't necessarily want to do that. And we have to understand, like, because you can have great employees who just have some different, priorities in life about some of that stuff. And
most definitely. Well, and I
yeah,
mean, take for example, right now, what we're seeing with the tug of war between employees and employers when it comes to working at home.
yeah,
I mean, right now, you have a lot of people who were working at home for the past year, and now their employers are starting to tell them, okay, we want you to come back to the office because we believe that if you're in the office, you'll be more productive. And then you have all these employees saying, well, wait a minute. I've been very productive over the past year, and I was working from home and I was
right,
working remotely. And I'm thinking to myself, why can't I stay at home and keep doing what I've been doing? It's been working out just fine. So right now, employers are starting to reassess their business model. They're starting to reassess their employment requirements and what they're going to require all of their people to do. They're starting to reassess what the job market is going to look like in the years to come. But it's a really intriguing thing because the job market to an employer looks very different than the job market to an employee. And
absolutely.
It's the same market, but your perspective is what is different. And your perspective with that sort of thing can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And I see it even in little ways, in like the job posts and job ads. I see so many like, hey, we're hiring. We're looking for a person who is, a self-starter and this and that. It's like, but you're not making the case for why somebody would want to work for you. You're saying what you're looking for, and we've shifted in the world. It's people have realized that they don't necessarily have to have the same kind of traditional job setup. They've realized that they can survive and live a decent life without working for people. I mean, we've got Uber, we've got Instacart, we've got a lot of these that type of gig economy type positions, and then you've got people who can make money on YouTube and TikTok and so it's like, if you really want people to work for you, you're gonna have to meet them where they're at. And and if you're starting a company, if you're starting your own business as an entrepreneur, I'm saying start with that empathy as well. Start with because it's going to help you understand what's going on, like I said, heads and hearts of your clients, so you can actually understand what they need and meet them where they're at and give them the right solutions. But if you're looking to hire, you don't fall in the same trap. I had a client, and I asked him why he started his business, and he said, well, because I hated really working for this jerk that I worked for before, and I knew I could do better. I'm like, okay. Do you feel like you set the bar low or high for your level of leadership then? He's like, oh yeah, because he said it at that jerk. As long as I'm better than that jerk.
That's a good point you made. Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, we're all human.
Yeah.
So we're imperfect. We all make mistakes. But I think if you can find a way to formulate your vision for the future and formulate your desired lifestyle, I think that's the most important thing to do, because at the end of the day, it's easier to formulate a plan to transform all that into a reality than it is to not know what you want. Not knowing what you want, I think, is more scary than not having a plan to get there. For me, that was always the case. If I knew what I wanted, I could very easily formulate a plan. But if I didn't know what I wanted, then okay, now that I'm really lost. And I think right now a lot of people feel lost. So if we can help them figure out who they are, what they want, vision for the future and their desired lifestyle, I think that's an excellent place to start. And if they want to start a business, I'm sure we can help them.
Absolutely, especially if they listen to Entrepreneurs Ascending, which plays live Wednesdays, 9 a.m. Central, and we also are putting out in all of our media outlets as well. So, Christopher, we got to close up, run out of time, but thank you so much for joining us today. What a great discussion! What a timely discussion! You had some great perspectives on the Great Resignation in the second half. In the first half, we were talking about the Cashflow Quadrants, and so. Please keep listening, but don't just listen. Put it into action, and you have to implement. You have to execute, and you'll start seeing those results. So, thanks again, Christopher. All right, take us out, Jason. Appreciate it. Thank you for being with us today. But now is the time to put what we talked about into practice. Remember, your family, employees, and community are depending on you to rise up and win. The great news is you're not alone. You're part of a resurgence of entrepreneurs who are ready to take their business, life, and impact to the next level, and we're going to do it together. This show is powered by Time for Success, where we help business owners every day who want more freedom and wealth while building a legacy of positive impact. Please follow Time for Success on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube for more helpful strategies and tools for creating the business and life of your dreams.